The Boys anti-tank rifle. This was a British weapon used during World War II, sometimes called the elephant gun, given its .55-inch bore. It also had some other names, highlighting its lack of popularity. The Australians nicknamed it Charlie the Bastard, and the Canadians knew it as Jinx. The weapon was designed in 1937, giving the rifle a small window of relevance before tank armor became increasingly sloped and thickened. 62,000 of these rifles would be built in the United Kingdom and Canada. The rifle was developed by Captain Henry C. Boys, a member of the British Small Arms Committee and designer at the Royal Small Arms Factory, Enfield. The weapon could penetrate .91 inches or 23.2 millimeters of armor at 100 yards or 91 meters, and a tungsten core bullet was developed for the rifle. This did make it effective against half-tracks and armored cars, and gave it a chance against light tanks. The gun's penetration value, however, sharply dropped past 100 yards, and against sloped armor. The rifle was heavy, 36 pounds, with a loaded magazine of 5 rounds weighing 2 pounds 7 ounces. Heavy for a single man to carry, but possible. This rifle would have been transported by vehicles such as the Bren gun carrier. The rifle was noisy with a significant muzzle blast. Firing the rifle was painful, causing neck strains and bruised shoulders. Therefore, it was often fired affixed to a support. The Boys was used early in the war, and it did have successes, though most of these would be against Britain's future and temporary ally, the Soviet Union. The Finns were provided Boys anti-tank rifles by Britain to fight the Soviets during the Winter War. They were effective against T-26 tanks. The Finns would end up developing a better anti-tank rifle of their own. Shown here is the Lahti L-39, which fired a larger 20mm round. The Soviets themselves would develop the best anti-tank rifle of the war, the PTRD-41, which caused significant problems for German medium tanks during the war. Though very quickly into the war, the Boys was discovered to be underpowered, it would still be heavily trained with, up until the end of 1942. In this same year, airborne forces used a shortened version of the weapon in Tunisia. This shortened version was deemed completely ineffective, as the shorter barrel further reduced muzzle velocity. The British and Canadians tried to keep up confidence in the weapon until something better could come along, enlisting Disney to produce early in 1942 the short training film, Stop That Tank. Needless to say, the movie greatly exaggerates, though hilariously, the effectiveness of the Boys. However, the second half of the film does have some sobering training information. The film instructs soldiers to completely disregard the sights calibrated for 300 and 500 yards, stating the sights should never be adjusted to 500 yards for armored vehicles, which should only be targeted within 100 yards. Soldiers were further instructed to only target the most vulnerable areas of a tank. For the British, the Piat, which fired a hollow-shaped charge, would replace the Boys in the field, starting in 1943.
Take cover! Bring up the Piat! Make sure it's within range.
Stop That Tank gives an excellent overview of the functioning and maintenance of the Boys. The rifle is designed so anyone familiar with the standard British service rifle can learn the Boys relatively quickly. The Boys has a top-loading 5-round magazine. Empty cartridges are ejected downward from the firearm's receiver. To help handle the significant recoil, a large recoil reducer on the muzzle is used. Here a cutaway shows how gases are vented, diverting some blast pressure to counteract recoil. Later models built in Canada had a rectangular muzzle brake and V-shaped bipod. The new muzzle helped the gun to kick up less dust, which was always a problem for the rifle, and gave away firing positions. Further helping with recoil, the shoulder piece is padded with rubber, and a heavy buffer spring is used. The shoulder piece also contains an oil well with brush for maintenance. Maintenance could prove difficult on the rifle due to many soft steel screws set very tight into the body of the weapon. Early in the war, the boys was what our boys were given, and they made do with mixed success, depending on how and where they were used. The rifle at all points in the war could still engage lightly armored vehicles or damage tracks on tanks. Even the US Marine Corps purchased some Canadian-made boys before America entered the war. They were used at least by one Marine Raider battalion against enemy bunkers and aided in the destruction of 2 Japanese seaplanes off Makin Island. Alright, I'm Johnny. Thanks for watching. I hope this video penetrated any questions you might have had about this anti-tank rifle. I hope to see all you boys in the next video.
Here we see the near side view of the anti-tank rifle. The weight of the rifle is